You're listening to The Weather Junkies.
Oh boy. Large wedge tornado coming up into Tuscaloosa.
A winter storm warning is in effect for our area.
Snow, we can expect at least another 2 to 4 inches for tonight. Then that snow is
The National Weather Service in Huntsville has issued a tornado warning for northwestern Massachusetts.
14 to 22 inches of snow!
Good Thursday evening. Thank you for joining us here on the Weather Junkies, the evening of April 21st already. So spring is in full swing here on the East Coast, and I think there's been some snow recently out by Dakota. We'll talk about that in a little second. Very happy to be back here after a little bit of a break last week. As always, I'm Tyler Janikowski joining the show from Connecticut, and tonight we have Dakota in Colorado, right?
That's right. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Tyler. I'm out in Fort Collins, as I always am, unless I'm traveling. And yeah, we had some really interesting weather over the weekend. Out here, you can get big snowstorms through the beginning of May. June, July, and August are actually the 3 months that we haven't seen a snowfall with 12 inches or more, which I think is a pretty crazy stat. There's only 3 months where you're safe from that. But over the weekend, in Fort Collins, we actually didn't get that much. We had like 3 inches on the ground, 6 inches total throughout the storm. But I was in Boulder, and the official Boulder observation was 15 inches. I saw around 10 inches, but just west of Boulder, in the foothills, around 6,000 to 7,000 feet elevation, they got 45 plus inches of snow. Some places seen 50 inches of snow. And it wasn't even that high up. It was some foothills. People live there. So certainly a very dynamic snowstorm that moved through here. But now it's mid-70s. Going to be getting warmer throughout the week, and I'm looking forward to it. How's the weather out there?
Well, we had a slow start to spring once April began. We had snow for 2 weekends in a row. We have the 5th snowiest month on record here in the Hartford area, and that is not changing, I don't believe. And we're finally, in the last week and a half, in this awesome stretch where we're just stuck with sun and dry weather. We've been waiting for so long, and it finally arrived. And for days on end, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Just amazing stuff. And it looks like we do have another nice weekend lined up this weekend, and then we may be on the cold side of a backdoor front or stationary front next week, which will be kind of ugly. We'll be near 50 with some showers, but the end of next week may even warm up. A lot of the modeling has upper 70s to near 80s, so I really think we're starting to accelerate on our path to summer. So very encouraging. It's an exciting time of the year.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I'm kind of the same way out here. It goes back and forth between kind of cool and warm. But we'd like to welcome to the show our guest tonight, Jacob DeFlitch. He's a graduate of Penn State University, the degree in meteorology, and he has worked at AccuWeather. He's worked at Good Morning America. He was an intern there. He's volunteered at the National Weather Service since State College. And just recently, him and a few of his friends from school launched Sunset Weather, which has taken off. That's an understatement. And Jacob is going to be going to grad school for a master's in social sciences at Memorial University in Canada. Jacob, welcome to the show. How's the weather in Pittsburgh?
You know what? It's a little cloudy right now, but it has been pretty nice over the past few days. I tell you. I got a little sunburnt given my Polish background, and so I'm not opposed to that. It's been nice over the past few days, and finally got spring. Spring feels like it's in the air, so I know I can kind of relate to Tyler on that note. Sorry about that, Dakota.
Hey, I like the snow, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well then, yeah. I like it once in a while. I guess once we hit April, I'm kind of ready. But I guess
Done with it. Yeah.
different beast out there in Denver and Colorado some days. So.
Yeah, it certainly is. So let's get into our tweets of the week. We'll be back with Jacob. And Jacob, feel free to chime in if you want to during the tweets. But we'll get to the main segment after this segment. So first tweet right off the bat, I basically already talked about it. It's from the snowstorm. It's from Dave Frazier. You can follow him at DaveWX. The tweet says, #Colorado weather. It's been an impressive storm with very impressive snow totals. All great moisture. And it shows the very sharp gradient of snowfall. And while Fort Collins didn't see that much snow, we got a lot of precip. I believe the weather station on campus got over 1.5 inches of QPF, and a lot of it was snow. It just didn't stick. It didn't accumulate. So it was an interesting storm, and yeah, that's about it for that. Tyler, you want to take away with our next tweet?
Yes, the next tweet is one that I selected, and it is about the Shenandoah Fire in Virginia in Shenandoah National Park, and the images are from Kevin Riley. He doesn't have a description on his Twitter account, but the images are amazing. I hope he took them. Not 100% on that. But it's a raging wildfire that's been burning for several days. In fact, if you look at the polar orbiting satellite images on NASA's Worldview website, I tweeted it a few days ago, you could see the smoke drifting southeastward in the vicinity of Charlottesville, and an amazing plume of smoke, and it certainly matches with the size of the fire on the ground, and it's been burning for days. It's in a national park, so I think it's probably tough to battle because it's tough to get to and all those kinds of things. I don't know how often they have fires like that in that part of Virginia, but I know here in New England we don't usually get big fires like that. I think it's generally more reserved to the West Coast, but I'm a self-proclaimed fire buff, so anything like this interests me, and whenever it intersects with weather, it's going to make the Twitter segment. So that was my tweet to start off.
Yeah, those fires, especially if they get out of hand and they're not in a kind of a controlled area, can get pretty nasty. But one of the cooler things that comes out of them is the satellite imagery, as you said.
Yeah.
And there was quite a nasty Oklahoma fire. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and the imagery out of that, the satellite imagery, was pretty incredible. So we'll move on to our next tweet of the week, and this one is from James Spann, and the tweet says, "Is there any hope for TV meteorologists?" Kind of a dismal text there, dismal tweet. I thought it kind of made me sad a little bit, but if you read the article itself, it has a lot of good stuff, and it's actually very encouraging, especially for young broadcast meteorologists. And Tyler, that's you. So how did you kind of feel about this article?
Well, I did read the article, so that's a start. I kind of like the article. I think he definitely says things that other people won't say, things that are very accurate. I'm not going to repeat it right now, but if you want to read it, there are things that are very revealing and very accurate in there, and I completely agree with him that some of that stuff is not going to work in this day and age. You really have to know your stuff. For those that are not familiar or intimately aware of how the business works, it was a great article to kind of learn and get some insight in what we deal with. I would say the one thing that surprised me is that he wakes up in the 4 o'clock hour in the morning, and he's the evening meteorologist. That is early when you go to bed at midnight. So there is no doubt that he is one of the hardest working people in the business. I think I knew that before I read this article, but it's still impressive. And he ended it by saying, let's see, hard work, long hours. He kind of made 3 points: hard work, long hours, and servant's heart. So are you willing to work hard, long hours with a servant's heart? You will make it, and along the way you'll find the model for the next generation. So basically he says, as long as you do those 3 things, or you have those 3 things, the profession of weather communication will not go away. So I enjoy his confidence.
Yeah, you know, we've kind of touched on this subject a lot, and I think we should probably dedicate a show to it because it's pretty important, and when a lot of people in our field are just kind of getting into it and trying to find their niche in broadcast, important subject to talk about.
And the final tweet is one that I selected. This is on the Houston flooding. It was tweeted by the Mercury News. Appears to be a organization out of the Silicon Valley. So not local, but the headline is Houston flooding, 5 dead after 18 inches of rain in 24 hours. That I hadn't actually looked at the actual numbers, but 18 inches in 24 hours, that is absurd. The Houston flooding important for a number of reasons, but it was just a year ago when they were dealing with crazy flooding. And now a year later, they are hit again with a deluge.
Yeah. The images out of there are heartbreaking, and I could not believe some of the totals I saw out of there. Like 17 inches, 15 inches, in 24 hours. I guess the tweet says 18 inches, but that was like, the lower end of the scale was the downtown Houston, where they only, in quotes, got like 6 or 7 inches in 24 hours. So talk about a crazy flash flooding event there.
Yeah, the event is. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, I was gonna mention. I'm not sure if you guys saw, but one of the Houston meteorologists, Mike, I might say the name wrong, Iskovitz, actually was on air for a number of hours and kind of spoke out to the public and said, if your bosses kind of more or less make you come in, our station will publicize them, and really went hard at the bosses of different, just the public who were making the workers come in despite the flooded roads. And I thought it was, interesting how he really kind of hit home that point and kind of would say, listen, we'll publicize those bosses from our station to make sure your safety and just, make sure you do stay home and don't go out in dangerous floodwaters. So I'm not sure if you guys saw the link or video, but to me it seemed like it really hit home, and it was nicely done by him.
Yeah, I did see that video, and Mike and I have followed each other on Twitter for a few years, never really interacted or met, but it was kind of cool to see someone, we've been on Twitter for a few years and now you're in the spotlight. But yeah, I agree. That was a great message that he was putting out. Sometimes you go viral for things that are not really that important or impressive, but that was very reasonable, I thought. I don't think people respect flooding or anything like they do snow, probably. We've discussed that before on the show. Everyone seems to jump when there's snow in the forecast, but if it's a tornado or flooding or things that could very well kill you, it doesn't really get much love until it actually impacts you. The other thing I would say about this is 18 inches. I mean, I know for example, here in Bristol, in central Connecticut, 6 inches in one day would cause some pretty impressive flooding. So I can only imagine how much damage 18 inches somewhere here in New England or the Northeast would do. It almost seems like it's a little bit different down there. I mean, I haven't seen every picture of the flooding. It was bad, but it would be terrible up here as well, if not worse. Yeah,
completely agreed. And before we move on to the main subject, JP Calb, he's a listener, loyal listener. He just wanted to make a clarification. The newspaper we were talking about, Mercury News, is the Bay Area's paper, not Silicon Valley. It's actually his local paper. So thank you, JP, for chiming in there. And so that'll do it for the tweets this week. And if you have any tweets that you think we should have on the show in the future, feel free to send them our way, and we'll include them. So on to the main topic. Jake, thanks for being here. Before we get into sunset weather, we've known each other for a long time, I guess 4 or 5 years now, and the thing I notice about you is you kind of like a lot of different things about the weather and the impact that weather has on people And so I'm curious, what kind of drives you to continue your career and further your passion for meteorology and weather?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, definitely. I first went to Penn State thinking I would do along the TV broadcast section end of it, and I really haven't rolled that out at all because I think that's a great way to communicate with the public, successfully. And I agree, like with James' article, I really don't see that going away in the future. But I guess it's really that communication, able to even more relate to the public, which is kind of spurred off of why I helped create Sunset. It's something that is relatable to the public and something the public can kind of appreciate and enjoy, because I think, we focus a lot on the, the really nitty-gritty, rough, poor, bad stuff about the weather, which is definitely great to use because it's definitely the saving lives. But there's also some beauty in the weather we can also, the public can understand and really appreciate, and I think we can push that, even more than we are now. So I guess, kind of spurred off with that, it's definitely along the social sciences field that I think captures my interest and how we can better relate to the public and kind of just, teach them along the way as we kind of, learn meteorology with the nitty-gritty, equations and algorithms, and put that into a tangible medium that the public can really understand, because I think the public wants to learn and to grow in knowledge within the meteorology field. It's just us getting over that obstacle of kind of getting to that point where they are understanding really everything that we're saying, and they're kind of, breathing it in and getting it.
So talk a little bit about your career so far. You didn't go into TV, but what have you done since school?
Yeah, so as I touched on, I went to Good Morning America for an internship. It was great working with Ginger Z and the crew there. Sam Winnack's a Penn State grad, so she was great to work with, and it really gave me an idea of, more or less what it's like nationally, working with the weather and also in the TV broadcast field, which definitely was interesting. And then I kind of, after I graduated, worked with Center for Severe Weather Research, and I'm doing that again next week, actually. Studying then was nighttime thunderstorms called Pecan, and this one will be called Twirl, studying tornadoes, more or less. And so it's kind of, covered the research end and the broadcasting end, and then I worked at AccuWeather for about 6 months, which was a great experience. And again, it was one of those, experiences that kind of like brought me to where I am, doing something, what I haven't done before, but in the forecasting end, which really intrigued me during my time at Penn State. And it was, a great spot for me and a great, I think, place to be, because some of the meteorologists there are really, they know their stuff, very educated, and became really knowledgeable across different sections of the world that I really wouldn't have known beforehand. But since covering all those fields, I really kind of thought that, I told myself if I was going to leave Penn State, I'd do a social sciences degree for master's. And I found this opportunity up in St. John's, Newfoundland, that really dealt with, communicating and working with the public, and even more, this up here is this project's dealing with more or less the marine sector and kind of helping them understand our forecast and how we can better improve our forecast in the future and what they kind of need from us. And so I kind of covered all my bases on the research, forecast, broadcast end, and I kind of thought, really social sciences is where my heart is at the moment. So I went off to this grad school.
Yeah, your breadth of kind of experience is very impressive. Good Morning America, AccuWeather, National Weather Service, Pecan, and now Sunset Weather, which has just blown up. I feel like I see another article or like another video about it every week. And the thing that's I don't know, the thing that's I think is amazing about it is that broadcast meteorologists are using it on air side by side other forecasts. And I saw that you guys shared a picture of markets that use it, and wow, it's like all across the country and in different locations. So tell me, I guess, about the overall experience of releasing it, and then kind of the feedback you've gotten, and how that experience was.
Sure. So I will throw it back. I kind of had the idea. I was a photographer at Penn State University during my time. Half the time I was a student, and I would get aggravated if I didn't catch a good sunset or sunrise, or I miss a good sunset because I didn't think it was going to be decent. So I kind of had the back thought back then, and then once I came back to State College after the Pecan research project, I got together with Ben Repperts, who's agreed with this idea all along and kind of been the partner in crime somewhat for sunsets and sunrises around the Penn State campus when I was there. And he definitely liked the idea, and we kind of spurred on and kind of went to Steve Hallett, who we knew was going to be the best computer programmer in the area, and a good friend really of Ben's and of mine too whenever we first got to work with him. So the three of us kind of got together over a slice of pizza. I asked the guys, hey, you want to get a box of pizza and work at Walker Building at Penn State?
Classic.
And we did, and we spent a classic, pizza and sunsets. Doesn't really get any better.
And Walker
Building. It was a great time. So in Walker Building, I think it actually was it was a Friday, or it might have been a Friday or Saturday night. It really doesn't get any better. It was pretty quiet.
Canyon.
So we were up there. Yeah, it wasn't. It was. I was saying it was Papa John's because they had a nice sale, a nice deal back then. So I think we went with the Papa John one, but I miss Canyon very much. But I guess sidetracked. Let's see here. Yeah, so we got together with the pizza, and I told him the idea, and we kind of did a lot of background research. Honestly, the first part really was just what's going to be in the algorithm, like what does it take to make for a nice sunset and sunrise. And so this was over one box of pizza, and then we met numerous times after that, and the process of creating the algorithm took weeks upon itself. We did a lot of background research and checked my photos along with other photos of sunsets we've seen before, and checked soundings, what was going on a synoptic scale and a mesoscale, and kind of related that to why was the sunset good there, or why wasn't it good there. So we kind of collaborated that all together, and kind of we got a sunset algorithm and sunrise algorithm out of that. And so I couldn't have definitely done it without them. They were great. I had Steve Hallett in his computer programming. He uses grads, which honestly I'm good with some Python and C++ or C++, I want to say MATLAB, but some of the things he does is very impressive. So the work he's done with the computer programming, which is really the nitty gritty of everything after the algorithm was created, was very helpful. And so we kind of shot off from there, and like you said, Dakota, it's been a whirlwind, and it's been much more taken in positively than we expected, and it's nice to see.
So from day one to now, how much have you improved the model? Is it a continuous thing, or is it mostly in the beginning and then letting it run?
So we created the algorithm, and then we really didn't release the algorithm for about a month and a half while we kind of ran the algorithm ourselves, and then we kind of verified it without verifying it on Twitter and telling people about it. So we kind of, we did a lot of adjustments there that I can't give a number of because there are a good amount of adjustments. And then once we released it, I want to say we probably adjusted it probably about 3, 4, 5 times right now. Because we don't want to jump on an adjustment after one day of a bad sunset or 2 days of a bad sunrise, because using the NAM, we all know the NAM's not always the perfect model to use, and it's not always accurate, unfortunately. So we have to realize that there could be model issues as well. So we probably adjusted it since we released it back mid-November about 3 or 4 times.
And where do you see it going in the future?
So right now we're working with one of Steve's friends. He's a student down in South Carolina. His name's Justin Lowry, and he's really working on the background data work, creating more or less the API and going from there. So we're creating a mobile app basically, and our hope is to have it out at some point this year. It's a lot of work, I know, for one person really, Justin, and then Steve's helping him as well. So it's definitely a slow process, but in the future, we wouldn't mind looking at, the mobile app is soon to be debuted. And we've also talked about going a little bit, branching off of sunrise and sunsets, and, trying different, weather variables, whether that be, we discussed maybe like a frost forecast, different ways to kind of have this, entity that's you could relate to the public that's different from just, temperature, precipitation, cloud cover, etc.
So we may have jumped the gun a little bit. Let's get into the algorithm. What does it include? And it's 4-kilometer NAM data, but what in the 4-kilometer NAM do you guys use to predict good, bad sunsets and sunrises?
Sure. Well, to start off, I'm not going to be able to give it all away because it's somewhat proprietary. The algorithm itself. I mean, if you want to pay me after the show, let me know and I'll stick around.
All right, sounds good.
But we'll talk that on the side. But I can definitely give you a pretty good idea decently of what's on there. Honestly, we take a lot of moisture levels into account, anywhere from the surface to the troposphere, up to about 200 millibars, and we kind of weight different, sections of the atmosphere according to what we think, really creates the best sunsets, and that's really trying to get the idea of what kind of cloud types there really is. Because if high clouds, after years of my photography experience, I get the vibe that it's definitely prints a more vivid scene than any low or mid-level cloud. So that using that part of the algorithm kind of gets that idea. We also take into account pressure. Pressure really over time, pressure tendencies, to kind of get the fact that if there was a frontal passage, like we see a nice sunset after a frontal passage, that can give it a general idea that even though it might be really cloudy in the sky still, that, with sun on the horizon, and with those, pressures falling or rising, depending on if it's a sunrise or sunset, it can also lead to a pretty vivid sunrise or sunset. So those are kind of the two main things, but we've also added a few other ones as well along the way that we've kind of realized kind of add to the fact, add to some more accuracy that we have.
So you guys do take into account clouds on the horizon, because you could have high clouds and if it wouldn't be a good sunset if the sun was blocked by clouds by the horizon.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I know what you're getting at, and we're working on that right now. It's definitely difficult trying to, because grads only gives out, and then we're working off the NAM base, so it's difficult for us to kind of go a certain level, because the horizon's different for every single location, for every latitude, longitude point. So there's that issue we're coming across, and also trying to just find that point and then saying it needs to be clear here while it has to be cloudy in another location. So we've really worked around adding a few more variables along with trying to work with that moisture level field to get a general idea. Even if there is high level clouds on the horizon, our model will kind of see that and say it won't be too vivid because of the clouds blocking the sun. So that's definitely probably one of the top issues of ours that we're trying to work out with. It's definitely, like I said, one of the obstacles we're trying to get over.
Gotcha.
So the financials of this operation, is it just for fun for now? Are there plans to turn it into a business? What can you reveal to us?
I'll reveal the secrets. So right now, it started out honestly as a hobby. I thought I could use it. Maybe some other photographers could use it. It would be a neat thing. And it, like I said, it kind of spiraled into a whirlwind more than I expected, and more than Ben and Steve expected, I think, as well. We have on our website some advertisements, and that brings a little chunk of change on a daily basis, which isn't much at all to mull over. I guess in the future we did create ourselves, and we are an LLC, so officially we are a company.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yes, correct. We got some help from the Penn State Law Department, actually, and so we worked with them, and they helped us create the LLC. So we're using our home base, Penn State Law, which was nice of them to help us out, because President Barron's really started this initiative that deals with entrepreneurship and starting small business and small companies, and so it's kind of along the lines of that, and that was nice to see, and good timing for them to help us out. The company itself, we wouldn't mind in the future doing a little bit more if that's the mobile app. We will consider if it's working with some others that want to use our data, etc. So we're kind of keeping our options open right now. Ben, Steve, and I are all meteorologists and meteorology students, so we didn't have much business, coursework during our time at Penn State, so it's kind of a learning experience there for us. But we've had some help along the way for sure, which has been nice.
That's good to hear. The app sounds like an awesome idea. I can see multiple ways to make money there. I can only imagine if it went viral and millions of people downloaded the app. And I suppose that leads us into our next question. How do you be unique? How do you remain unique? What happens if someone else pops up and wants to do the same thing?
For sure. We actually, whenever we first began, after we got an article in Slate by Eric Holdhouse, I believe reached out to us. I can't remember his name. His name's Matthew. He created a Skyfire app. The app is called Skyfire, and it does somewhat of a similar basis, although he also takes into account like astrodynamics of the sunset and sunrise. So if there's like a building in front of you, where do you have to move to see the sunset or sunrise? So they do something on a different basis than what we do. So we talked to him, and he actually gave us some pointers, and we're hopefully keeping in touch. So right now it's pretty on a limited basis. Who else kind of does something similar to what we do? But we, like you said, we can't we can't rule out that somebody will also in the future. So it's kind of we're working on how do we make ourselves unique. Really, we're just right now pushing social media and to get our name out there, to be the first ones to get our name out there. Through the numerous paper articles, TV segments or whatever, it's been nice to kind of get our names kind of the first ones out there. So we're, like I said, we're also maybe working on a few other weather variables we kind of can include in the future to branch off from just the regular sunset and sunrise.
Yeah, you've definitely gotten a lot of quality media attention. I think the idea is that you can't rest on your laurels.
Exactly. We agree 100%. So that's definitely one of the other challenges as well. And also other full-time jobs. Steve's a full-time student. Ben's a full-time professor now, and I'll be heading off to grad school. I just finished AccuWeather full-time there. Grad school. So it's kind of doing on the side as well as working with everything else. So it's a balancing act here and there.
Yeah. Well, I even if someone does come along and makes a similar type of thing, you guys already have the originality to it, and I doubt anyone else would get that kind of coverage like you guys did. And I mean, you guys already have several thousand followers on Twitter and Facebook, so just establishing that is great. I was curious. I've seen a lot of buzz about it in the meteorology community. Do you guys get a lot of interaction? Well, I guess obviously you do, but what is the interaction like between the photography community and individuals taking pictures? Do they send them to you, and then you guys send them the forecast, or how does that work?
So usually we try to get the idea that on our website, sunsetwx.com, our homepage actually has the updated forecast for their time zone, so they don't have to go scrolling through the model and looking for Zulu time and whatnot. So we hope most of the photographers do go there, and we have a thousand or two or a few thousand every day, sessions or whatnot. So we're hoping the photographers kind of have an idea of where to go, and we get a good amount of verifications on Twitter. Since before the 538 article, it was more or less us reaching out, but since the article, it's really blossomed, and we've gotten a lot more photos back from people without us having to reach out to them. So that's definitely been helpful. So far that I've seen, the photographer community has really used it. As always, we try to get the idea across that it's not always going to work, and I think some kind of understand that. It's again one of those learning curves that we have to push, that we're basing this algorithm off a model, and unlike usual forecasts every day, we can't really add any human touches besides our algorithm. So it's kind of trying to get that idea across as well. But I've searched, did a lot of research, just looking up our model or our verification just on Google using Sunset WX, and seeing some blogs where photographers have used our forecast, and they post a photo and they say it verified or whatnot. So that's been helpful as well. So it's definitely been a mixed reaction, and a lot of us kind of just reaching out to people on social media and letting people know we're here for them, I guess you could say.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's great to have a kind of community feel, and a very quick. It seems like you guys respond very quickly to people that send in their pictures or requesting a forecast. We have a question here, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to go ahead and say it here. It's from JP again. He was the one that chimed in earlier, and he says, are you guys hiring at Sunset Weather or need an aviation sports meteorologist? Putting you on the spot here, Jake, and you can just say.
No worry. To be honest with you, JP, we haven't rolled out. We might need. I don't want to call it an intern or whatever you want to call it to really help on two ends. Whether that's kind of help verifying on our social media account, because myself and Ben Reppert do it for both sunrise and sunsets, and it takes a good chunk of our day. I want to be honest to say it's probably we work on it together combined probably about 10 hours. 10 to 12 hours a day, depending on how the sunrise or sunset is from both East Coast to West Coast. So we haven't ruled out help on that aspect, and also maybe another case study or two. We have one on our website, but to kind of get the idea that we are verifying, on a daily basis, maybe a few more case studies wouldn't be rolled out either. So, if you follow me, send me a tweet, because I know Ben and Steve and I were kind of chit-chatting about that, from opinions from others, that we really could use someone to help with our social media aspect and hopefully some more case studies.
Yeah,
I'm on the homepage now. Or Dakota, did you have something to follow up with that?
I was going to say, JP, send him a message if you want to connect, because
yeah, sure, go ahead. Yep.
I'm on the homepage now.
It's an unpaid, unfortunately. I just wanted to announce that we don't have enough change yet to get across anything paid.
If I could just add my 2 cents. I'm looking at the sunrise quality and the sunset quality graphics. One thing we like to do on this show is kind of relate things to the everyday person. So, Tim in Tioga County, Pennsylvania. For Tim, there might be a lot of mumbo jumbo on these graphics. Like, what does 12Z mean in NAM 4KM? Perhaps in the future you could do spruced up, made for public graphics, maybe on a state basis.
Yes, we've definitely talked about that, and the time conversion is definitely one of our bigger obstacles. Is getting the idea of what does 11Z mean, what does 18Z mean, which one should I use, whatnot. And why is the sunrise saying, or the sunset saying it's the day after when it actually says 0Z Saturday, but it's Friday sunset. So there's definitely some confusion there that we're trying to work out the kinks. It's a long process to try to reconfigure all the times from Zulu time to Eastern Standard, whatever time we want it to be time zone wise to have that up on every image. So we're working on a better way to do that outside the homepage.
It would probably be tough,
but yeah,
in states where you have 2 time zones.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. So there's definitely tricky issues. Hopefully, maybe one day we can instead have instead of the 12Z sunrise, we can just have 8 a.m. EST, so people can kind of more or less relate to EST. Okay, this is I can look 3 hours ahead of time or whatnot. For now, this will have to do. And we haven't got too many huge comments about that, but there's been a few here and there we're trying to work out the kinks with. And we also hopefully want to do some regional, like you said, zooms in. We have the U.S. right now, and then we have Europe as well. But outside of that, it's the Europe, the world, and the U.S. And so, hopefully at some point we can zoom in to the northeast, southeast, and whatnot, and kind of, get a more general idea instead of just looking on the view of the U.S. and more of a, a localized, statewide view.
Well, I did notice you guys had Europe. Have you gotten any interaction from people across the pond?
We actually have. There was 1 or 2 articles probably in the past month or two that I've tried to read, but they're not in English. So it's been a little difficult to understand. Oh, this is really working out, or is not working out too well. So I'm taking the optimistic view, and they're saying, hey, this is a great tool, use it. But I've seen some photos on Twitter that that I reach out to around 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. whatever their sunset time is over there in the countries. But and it seems like it's verifying pretty well. But again, unfortunately we don't have enough time to kind of focus on Europe too, and let alone the rest of the world outside of the U.S. So right now it's kind of focused on the U.S.
Wow, sunsets! I did not know could be so complicated.
Yes, we weren't aware either. We weren't aware at all.
You guys have a lot going on, and I give you guys a lot of credit for keeping up with it all and trying to make it the best product it can be with your lives already being so busy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I'm looking at the forecast now for my sunset tonight, and it looks like it's going to be an average sunset across the Front Range. I will let you know. I will take a picture.
Yeah,
I've sent you guys a few pictures, but I will make an important reminder to take a picture tonight.
Yes, we expect that, and we're hoping actually to make another adjustment maybe this week into our model. We've seen a couple issues here and there over the past few weeks, and so maybe we'll take that into account, and we'll see. Hopefully that can change in the future. But
Gotcha. So I have to ask before we kind of sign off here.
Sure.
A question that we ask everyone, and that is, what advice could you give to a young up-and-coming meteorologist, and what would you say the most important skill throughout your career is?
Ooh. Let's see.
Yeah, no, on the spot.
I'm not sure if I call this a skill, but I guess it's just the idea that if you I'm getting a little sentimental here, if you kind of put your heart to it, anything's really possible. I kind of had the idea, going through college, that really everything has been thought up of and everything's really been created, and we're at the best we can be right now, whether it's in the meteorology field or just the technology field itself. We've kind of hit a plateau, and how much more can actually be created. But if you really kind of, get a little creative and really, set your mind to something that you're kind of also passionate about, really anything's really possible, and, don't let, someone stop you saying you can't do that, or really, that's not worthy, it's not, that shouldn't exist, because that's not going to help anybody. But, if you really kind of set your mind to it, really you can improve anything or create anything you really want. So.
Wow, I love that. That is.
It was a little deep, and it was a little less on the skill side, but.
That's the most inspiring advice I think we've had on the show thus far. Most of it is, you're right, very technical, and I really like that. Jake,
thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining us tonight, and hopefully we can have you on sometime soon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for having me on as well, guys. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks, Jake. Thank you for listening to us tonight. If you're not following us on Twitter, you can follow us at the WX Junkies. We're also on Facebook. You can listen to this podcast on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, or Stitcher. If you're listening on Stitcher, go ahead and give us a rating or a review. We'd really appreciate it, whether it's good or bad. Tyler, think you could plug the next show?
Yeah. Well, we will be on next week. That's the good news.
Yeah, we took a break last week.
And our topic for next week?
Yeah, we're actually going to have on Dr. Jamie Dyer from Mississippi State University, and he's doing some really interesting research down there. It's all about drone technology and using it to collect data, to take pictures, and really to change how we collect data in the weather community and weather observations.
Drones are fascinating, so it's bound to be an exciting show.
Yeah. So for Tyler and myself and Jacob, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.